First of all, I just want to get it out there that I am deeply enjoying this iteration of Berserk. Even when I'm meticulously scrutinizing some elements of the manga, it's not as a criticism against this manga continuing, it's as someone who misses Miura and wonders where else decisions could have been made. But at the same time, I recognize that this is Berserk and I'm all on board for seeing what Mari and Gaga have to tell us. The reality of this series is almost as a memoriam to the guy, so when I make seemingly never-ending comparisons, please don't take it to mean me looking at Mari as though he's beneath that which came before, but at the fact that he is conveying everything he remembers Miura telling him, and how important it is that we don't lose track of that. But anyway, that's just in response to some comments I got in the last video. Chapter 368 is The Worm Eaten. It's 19 pages and has this moment between Guts and Griffith where he realizes there is no way to get Casca out of Griffith's hands anymore. So he despairingly reaches out for her. I really like this sequence as it feels like one of the first emotional moments by Studio Gaga that hits me completely as intended. Maybe it's because I'm getting a bit more used to how they draw Guts, or maybe it's because they dedicated the perfect number of pages to the moment, but it conveyed the sense of loneliness and emptiness that Guts feels without lingering too much. It looks like Casca wakes back up in these last moments as Zod flies back through the World Spirit Tree. The part of the gang that was with Danan is surrounded by black entities like that at the Tower of Conviction. In the last video I thought it was apostles, and so I'm pleasantly surprised by this revelation. Additionally, I went back and read one of Miura's final chapters and saw that we were literally told there is a balance of the spirits on this island, with the hidden depths housing these more malevolent ones. So yeah, that was on me failing to note that last time. This third of the chapter has them dealing with these spirits until Skull Knight warns them that they won't be able to ward them off this time, and that the only choice is to run. I look forward to the official volume translations for Geyserich because maybe this was a more individual problem, but the writing seemed to take a slight hit for me. However, I do like seeing Studio Gaga finding its footing more and more. For example, in the middle of a tense combat they chose to draw Isma with shocked fish eyes due to her mermaid origins. It's a funny nod to her character in a way that Miura would do at a moment like this. The last third of this chapter shows how Roderick is paving the way for ships to be readied for the team's departure before being stopped by the spirits. The whole layout for this sequence was really well spaced, broad, and really quite epic to be honest. Seeing the mermaids, the crew, the marine life reacting, and the spirits following behind, all on the page but segmented for our attention, was really well done. It's pages like these that make me really look forward to how this team approaches the final battle, as they've already come a long way. With this chapter, we also receive the first bit of gore from the team, as we see what the spirits are capable of again, and they eat away at one of the crew like piranhas. It's a great chapter, probably my favourite one of the bunch since the continuation. There's a solid increase in dialogue, in exposition being told, and in overall design. Oh yeah, there's also a little moment at the end where Puck sees the now dead elf elm tree become overgrown with Ganishka's branches, furthering Griffith's control over one of the last regions in the world in which he hadn't. Chapter 369 is Fading Isle, and takes up 18 pages, and really goes in on Guts' feelings of uselessness as Shiake tries to call to him whilst being held back by Farnese and Evilera. He's completely cut off from everyone. The painful expression when he holds his sword is a real twist to me, as Guts doesn't do anything to move from the crumbling ground. He's truly lost the fight in him here, and would literally get buried alive if it weren't for Skull Knight, who swoops by and picks him up. It's the first time we've seen Guts like this since straight after the eclipse. Obviously, straight after the eclipse, he found one motivation, which was his rage, so we'll still be getting his resolution to get Casca back, but we might have quite an upsetting road to that point. I like how the one thing Guts thinks is this reaffirmation in this mirror theory that I have going on, where causality is echoing. This mirrors the fight where Guts swings and doesn't hit Griffith, but crushes Griffith's mentality by leaving. And here, Guts can't hit Griffith, and his mentality is crushed by Griffith leaving. We end up getting an entire map of Skellig and Elfhelm, which I'm glad I got roughly correct in my World of Berserk video. Either way, they don't commit to this fully because the island itself is this crescent according to this chapter, but this scale is kind of wonky compared to the landscapes that Miura showed us, even just a few volumes ago. The death of the tree causes the astral creatures to fade, which culminates in this really upsetting moment where Isidro and Isma spend their last moments together. To go back to the omissions of this chapter, we get details that you need to fill in for yourself, and it's a bit of a shame. Like the fact that Roderick survives the cornering from the previous chapter off screen, and they end up telling and not showing what drives the darkness away. That's one thing, but Guts being whisked away by Skull Knight is something that I talked about just now, but at the end of the chapter, it's just Guts somewhere else. Would it have killed them to just put the silhouette of a horse leg in the foreground or something? I think the team behind this, bless them all, might need longer than a month to make these chapters. Since they've picked the series up after Miura's death, I'd say I've loved the manga at a ratio of about 80 to 20. The 80 includes some really great stuff that Miura left us with, including the fact that Chich was this astral creature that emerged into Guts' world through a tiny little spirit plant. She plucked the leaves from the plant to heal Guts, and by the time he awoke, she was dead, along with the plant itself. It doesn't look like the death of these characters are happening because, and this is my assumption, but Chich was an astral creature, and she was the one who inadvertently killed her astral anchor to the world, the plant. Thus, it was destroyed and she died and disappeared. Griffith is in his physical human form, the one which he had to go through this whole ritual at the Tower of Conviction to obtain. So he's damaged the physical worldly manifestation of the tree, meaning the anchor on the human side of the world is done for these guys. So they're soon to be phasing back into a deeper layer of the astral plane, and one where the deep roots of this tree are still somewhat alive. If it was Femto who had severed this tree, that would have been cutting off the astral connection and would have ended up killing astral creatures such as Danan. The difference here is Chich is an astral creature and she severs her own astral connection, killing herself. This is physical Griffith, he's the one whose appearance has cut off the physical manifestation of the tree, and so people aren't dying, they are just simply disappearing and going back into the astral world. That's my idea anyway on what's happened. I could be completely wrong, but if that isn't the case, then Danan probably should be dying instead of just disappearing. Either way, the death of the tree and the disappearance of the elves is a very fitting event to wrap this chapter of the Fantasia arc, because it does harken back to what we saw with Chich. I am very happy that we are 100% going back to the basics for at least one couple here, and that's Isidro and Guts. One stalked the other for volumes and volumes, and with their respective others gone, the slate has been wiped clean, and that's very much on the table once more. Episode 370 is Refugees from the Western Sea. It's 16 pages, or 17 if you count the colour page. The colour page is an expressive and heartwarming painting of the good times, I guess. It's a great final colour spread for what is the end of the Fantasia arc, or at least the end of the first chapter in that arc. They still didn't really specify just yet, but I guess we'll find out next chapter either way. Danan even uses that same power, distributing the life force from the spiritually imbued fauna to make a little flower crown for Isma. I think in terms of style alone, Miura would have been proud, with this piece really reflecting the tastes and styles of his apprentices. For the chapter itself, we cut straight to the Seahorse, where Roderick's men have assembled everyone, including the late addition of Guts. I think we can assume the island itself is uninhabitable now, likely due to the emergence of dark spirits. That does suck, considering we just had Skull Knight there for chapters and chapters. Aside from sharing a blood memory of the eclipse, he only fought off the dark spirits for a few pages. And I guess if I'm right, he also carried Guts to safety too, so I guess that's not too bad. But I did expect maybe one more pivotal moment with him before wrapping up the arc. The group find each other and despair for a while, feeling useless. I like how the little humorous moment between Ivalera and Puck is quite literally gallows humor. Serpico wonders where the Moonlight Boy went, and this hard-hitting question makes Shiake look sorrowful, and is what drives Farnese to tears. But when Morta finds them, she's reassuring that their skills are very much still vital, and that there are dozens of injured to heal. This sets them back onto their helpful path once more, leaving, I imagine, Serpico and Isidro to be there for Guts, who is currently blanking Roderick, keeping to himself and reminiscing on his sword. There's a nice touch on the final page of a faint light fading, and I think that's calling back to Sparks and what drove Godo forwards. Guts wondered in that moment if that's what could drive him forwards. Shortly after this is when he found love, and what he truly wanted to live for. The light fading is a bitter line for the end of Fantasia, a glittering island with his restored lover snatched away in an instant. The sparks have truly faded. So it's a really glum note to end off on. I really don't mind if this is the end of the Fantasia arc, but after reading the whole sequence of episodes that we were given, I wouldn't mind if this whole time had just been Fantasia arc Elf Island chapter, with the Elf Island chapter closing, and something new to come in the Fantasia arc. I think both work, despite titling this video very much one way and not the other. I do think it could have maybe been a bit more climactic, but these 6 episodes definitely serve to round off everything that Miura set up so far in Fantasia, so they did good by that. All that's left to cover that was set up by Miura is Griffith's wedding, and Guts leaving the group, which, just so you know, was confirmed by him back in 2019. They could also tap into Ricket in the homeland of the Bakiraka, but they might be wanting to play the long game for that one. We have another chapter in December, so that's a 2-month wait, which is ideal really. There's also that December countdown that appeared on the Berserk Memorial Edition website. Expect a video about that and the Memorial Edition next month. Until then, thank you very much for watching, thanks to the patrons for supporting this video. Be sure to like and subscribe for more, and have a wonderful night.